Welcome to
Welcome.
the Cinematic. Josh. Welcome to the Cinematic Doors podcast. We're here with episode 31, and we're so excited to bring with you a review of Dune 2 today. And these are your hosts, Jordan Clark and
Joshua. I don't know. Whatever.
and this is your favorite movie podcast where we review your favorite movies or ours or movies that are terrible, or we give our opinions on those movies as well. I think is our slogan, but I screwed it up. So anyways, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for listening. And just to let you know, we uploaded episode 30, and that was a recap and longer episode of our spooktacular and just all good things from last fall, because we haven't recorded in a long time. So please listen to that, share it, like it. And this one, we're just going to focus on an epic movie that we went and saw recently. But Josh, before we do that, how is life?
Life has been all right. I've shoveled 2 times today. 3 times today.
I always shovel. I always wait till everything's done and then I shovel.
I actually wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about this as I was shoveling.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to talk to someone about this. Like, so you said that you shovel after.
I just wait for all the snow to fall, then I shovel.
Yeah. But I feel like there's 2 strategies. You either shovel as you go, so it's like you do it more, but it's less work.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just shovel once, and it's like more work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to think, like, what is the better one? Because before, I would be the one that's, I'll just shovel after because I'm lazy sometimes. But then my dad kind of like beat it into me and expected me to shovel every half hour.
Okay.
Not physically beat it, just so you know. You didn't. Disclaimer. And then so I just shovel as we go now. And so I'm just like, what are the pros and cons to that?
So here's the thing: is we don't have time to shovel all day, so because we have little kids, right? So it's less.
Them to shovel.
It is less. Well, they're so little that Poppy shovel she usually de-shovels my shoveling. Like she'll.
Oh yeah.
She thinks she's helping, but she's not. Like she'll shovel her little shovel and then throw the snow back onto the path when I'm trying to shovel the path. Yes, but she does shovel me. She loves it, and the concept is there. I'm glad that she wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's just not very helpful because she's 4, right? So,
yeah.
So typically with a snowstorm like this, I usually just wait because it's just going to snow a lot and getting bundled up and everything. I get it. It's less work on your arms to shovel.
Yeah.
As
and
you
your
go.
back.
And your back. Yeah. It's more.
You should be worrying about that. You're old.
Yeah. I don't know if it's more efficient though. Like, I don't know because you're wasting more time shoveling. Right. So, I mean, because my yard, I don't have a driveway. So my yard, it's quite easy to shovel. It's just like one path
I guess,
and then the sidewalk. Yeah. And then I shovel behind the garage. So it's a little, it's not as, so if I'm going to shovel throughout the day, like you said, I will shovel the garage. I'll shovel behind the van because then it's way less work, right? That's where it builds up quite a bit. And then I have to shovel to get the van out. But my pathway is very skinny. So I don't have to shovel a large, wide driveway, right? So I think it depends on your context. Yeah. I think it depends on your context. Yeah.
Let's say it's going to take you 30 minutes no matter what, but you either spend the 30 minutes doing it once or you do it 15 minutes twice.
Right. Plus getting your snow stuff on, getting your gear on.
No. In this situation, it's just 15 minutes.
Well, no, but you have to add on 30. Getting your snow stuff on.
No, that's added in.
Okay.
But you kind of said
15 plus that, right?
You kind of said that you shovel the back where your van is as it goes, so it doesn't.
So like today we went to church. and then came home, shoveled it.
Yeah. So
And
if
then
you had
tomorrow
a
morning, I'll shovel
driveway,
it. Yeah.
if you had a driveway, you would shovel it as you go.
To be honest, if I had a driveway, I would get a snowblower.
Fair enough.
If I could afford a house with a driveway,
Yeah.
I would just get a snowblower and do it
Well,
once. I don't want to spend my whole day shoveling, right? So
that's
I
fair.
just but it
The way
is
that
you are correct. I'm
the
not saying you're incorrect.
yeah.
It
Well, yeah,
is
I
less
know, I
work.
know.
It is
The
less
way
work.
that
Yeah.
I do it or am expected to do it is as I'm leaving, I'll just quickly shovel.
Yeah,
So it's like
that's good. That's
5
like what I
minutes,
did.
shovel it,
Yeah.
and then leave. Or like me, my brother, and my dad do that.
Nice.
And so we all kind of just, I guess it's different when you have multiple people, but yeah.
And one day my kids will shovel. So
Yeah.
and if I have a snowblower, I'll take the snowblower away when my kids have to
And
shovel.
make them shovel?
Yes.
Yeah. Make them learn.
That's how we'll go. And I'll buy smaller shovels, right? Like you just make it really hard for your kids. And then you say, back
And
in
make them
my
like
day.
cheap plastic ones that like
Right.
one like scoop it like snaps in half and then
Yes.
they just have to use the shovel part.
Oh, yeah. Or you just have to walk to the store and get a new shovel. I'm sorry that your shovel
Give them
broke.
a
Yeah.
spoon. Plastic
Oh, good
spoon.
times. I like that shovel conversation. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's been a snowstorm today and it's supposed to keep snowing, I think. No, is it supposed to be over now? I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly, I like as I get older, the more I don't look at the weather because I'm like,
Right.
you know what? I don't care because it's gonna either be really cold or warm. There's no in between.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I just prepare for the really cold. And then
Yeah.
if it's warm, I'm like, wow, that's exciting.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's welcome to
better
Adelaide.
thing, better things to worry about, like
Nice.
taxes.
Like taxes. Mine are done. How about you?
I'm planning on evading taxes this year.
Well, that's not good. That could come back to bite you.
Legally, that's a joke.
Yes. I like doing my taxes because I get money back because I'm clergy. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, I usually get about a good chunk back.
In my
And
life right now, I do get money back.
nice. There you go. Excellent.
Once this podcast starts blowing up, though.
Just do your I was gonna say podcast. Do your taxes, Josh. It's not hard.
I will. I know. Yeah.
Your parents probably have a guy. They probably have a guy related that does it, right? They have a
I
person.
don't think they do.
Oh, really? Oh, do they do it on their own then, or
I
what?
think my mom has just done it in the past.
Nice.
And like every year I'm like, "Hey, can you teach me how to do this?" And then
Yeah.
she just does it. And I'm like,
Just teach me.
I'm like,
I'm
"What are
just
you doing?"
because of the clergy stuff, and I would just be worried about missing something. So, and we just
Yeah.
always get way more money back than what we pay, like way more.
I
So
know.
it's worth it. It's not. It's not if it's
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands
yeah.
of
It
dollars
actually is,
to
Josh.
Mr. Clergy.
It actually is.
Well then, maybe I'll become a clergy.
That's not the only reason why, because we don't make a ton of money. We're in a different bracket. Yada yada
You have
yada. We have
children.
kids. It's good times. Good times.
Yeah. It's good
But
times being poor.
we did a thing.
I'm
We went.
sorry.
We we did a thing. We went and saw Dune
Dune.
Part 2. We went with us and Justin came along,
Yeah.
and Justin really hated the first one, he said, but he liked the second one. So that's
He
his
didn't say
review.
he hated it.
Yeah, I think he's warmed on it because he tried watching it again, or he was going to watch it again. But when he
He
first
said
initially
he didn't
talked,
understand it.
oh, okay, he was much meaner
Pretty
about
sure.
it to me. But this
Oh.
was a couple weeks ago, so I think he maybe, yeah. Um,
Hmm.
but we'll get
Yeah.
into his comment because his comment is an issue I have with these movies. So we are going to
Oh.
we're going to review this movie, and then I think what we'll do is we'll have a discussion about just part 1 and 2 together, or the Dune as a whole, right? Because it is a
Mm-hmm.
whole. It's the first book broken up into 2 parts. So Dune 1 and 2 are the first book, so it's one story. And they just had too much. They wanted to make it 2 movies because there's too much to cover, is pretty much
Yeah.
how they pitched it. So yeah, so let's jump in to our review of Dune Part 2. So, Josh, as I guess this is our review segment,
Yep.
and we will do our good, the bad, and the Geordie later on at the end. I think we'll fit that in at the end. But let's just hear your thoughts. So before we hear your thoughts, sorry, let's just break down what this
Okay.
movie is and who made it. So Dune Part 2, starring Timothy Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya as Chani, so the love interest. Javier Bardem is in it as well. Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, who played Elvis in the biopic Elvis earlier, or I think it was 2 years ago now. Dave Bautista's in it from wrestling and MCU fame. There's a lot of people in this movie. You know,
Yeah.
Charlotte Rampling, Leah
Florence
Sadu,
Pugh. Did you say that?
Florence Pugh, no, Christopher Walken's in it. So lots of people
I'm
are in this
walking
movie.
here.
Yeah. And so there's a ton of people in this movie, and this movie is directed and written by Denis Villeneuve. John Spates is also credited as a writer. And I don't know his name. I will look it up right now. But the cinematographer,
Oh, we need to know his name.
yes, because he has done Dune 1, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. He's done Blade Runner 2049. I'm going to look this up right now. So I say all that to say he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a very good up and coming. So Josh, Greg Fraser. There we go.
Greg.
And
I
Greg
love
spelled
that guy.
Greig, Greg Fraser. So this man is.
Greig. Wow.
We'll get into his genius, but
Greig.
Josh. And by the way, if you haven't seen Dune 2, just click this off, go watch
Yeah.
Dune 2, or if you don't care about spoilers, then continue watching, but we will spoil this movie right away. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on Dune 2?
Here's my spoiler. They all die in the end.
Yeah. Just like Rogue
All
One.
right. Yeah, no, this movie it wasn't surprising. I can't even say I was surprised of any of it really. It was what I thought Dune 2 was gonna be in a way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And no, it was really good. And it kind of felt interesting because like the first movie I watched after quarantine was Dune. And so it was kind of like interesting to watch it again and like not care about quarantine. Cause like I remember being in a packed theater then and it was like really it was kind of weird because I'm like,
Like,
oh, I haven't
you
been
saw
in
Dune 1 in the theater?
yeah,
Oh, man. I didn't never saw it in the theater.
it
I'm
was
kind of,
packed
yeah.
and um it was kind of like anxiety inducing because it was the first time being in public. We were all wearing masks and it's kind of weird, but it was cool to watch it now and like not care about that. Um
Isn't
but
that
yeah,
crazy, eh? How life is just
yeah, like
back to normal.
Dune 2 came out in normal times. So,
Yes.
yeah, no, I really enjoyed watching this movie and the cinematography. There was a few shots at the beginning of this movie that like absolutely blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
just the fact that they can make a desert look the way it is and make it look appealing is just something so mind-boggling to me. Greg, well done. Greg with an I, well done. It was a gorgeous movie, great acting, and very intriguing plot.
Did you
Yeah.
like it more than Dune Part 1?
I'd say I definitely did because like Dune Part 1 took me a while to get into. Like it's a lot slower. Like it's a slower
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's a lot of like building up for this movie, I
Mm-hmm.
feel. And so this movie was like a lot more, there's a lot more going on, a lot more action, and um like there's still a lot of information, but it was there's more to like look at and see, and more fighting and learning. Well, actually there wasn't a lot of learning, and that comes into some of my nitpicky things, but yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it more because it just had more going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll get my overall thoughts and then we'll break it down by section, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like super pumped for this movie. I recently, well, I rewatched Dune last year, and I it's a movie that slipped under the radar for me because it came out during COVID, like 2021.
Mm.
So just during while everything was opening up, right? And a movie I saw during that time in the theater was Tenet, and I did not like it, and now I like that movie. And so
Oh,
Dune, like I watched just in my like I watched on streaming, right? I just watched it in HBO Max, and I like it more the more I watch it, right? So I watched it last
yeah.
year. I really loved it last year. Like it really has grown on me quite a bit, and I read the book. Like I have read the book recently because the movie came out. Like not, I think I read it about the end of 2022 going into the start of 2023,
Mm.
just because I knew they're making more Dune movies. So I wanted to read the book because I always like reading the book. But yeah, I went into this movie just because the reason I was excited, it wasn't even because it was Dune. I think I was really excited because I love this filmmaker. I love Denis Villeneuve. Like anything he does, I love. He's one of the top filmmakers. He's right up there with Christopher Nolan for me right now as current filmmakers. And
Wow.
so I was just like, you have this kind of independent started filmmaker that kind of makes whatever he wants because he's made enough money and has enough status in Hollywood. And he's got a blank check on this really weird Dune story. And it's going to be this epic, huge sci-fi thing done by this really well known filmmaker and like really well attired filmmaker, right? Like this is the guy who made Arrival. Like this is the guy who made
Mm-hmm.
Enemy. These like smaller movies about really small relationships between family
Prisoners.
members and prisoners. Yeah, like he's excellent. He's also made huge movies like Blade Runner 2049. And so it's just so exciting to get a movie like this from someone like this. And so I was really hyped because of that. And this movie exceeded my hypeness. It just exceeded my
Yeah.
expectations. It just, yeah, it's like big and it's crunchy sci-fi. It's dirty kind of grunge world sci-fi, like real science fiction.
Yeah.
We'll get more on that later because that's one thing I don't like about these movies is it could be more science fiction, like it could have more stuff from the book in it that I think would be well suited, but it does encapsulate the weird world of Dune really well. There's like really strange imagery and characters. The sound design in this film is phenomenal. Like just the movie
Yeah.
opens with a
No, it's
quote, um, and I can't remember who says it. I think it's I don't remember their names. It's the people that do the space travel, I believe. Like they speak in the book and they're not really in the movies. Like the people that are in charge of the interstellar space travel, and they speak with like they have like a throat kind of voice, and they do the two quotes, the one at the beginning of Dune 1 and the beginning of Dune 2. So the movie starts not with a title screen. It just has this like like throat singing quoting, and it's like, power, the one who controls spice has power or whatever the quote is, like
mm-hmm.
along those lines. And so it just like isn't afraid to be what it is, and isn't really afraid to bore its audience and to be slow and to just build its
Yeah.
world. And I love film like that. Like I love art that doesn't care about its audience. Like I really, and that's pretentious, I know, but I'm not there when I go to Dune, I'm not there to be entertained. I'm there to like be in a world and to be challenged and to have this like deep story and depth within the world. And Dune 2 did an excellent job building on everything Dune 1 did in that regard. And it kind of went further in a lot of those ways. Like you said, the cinematography, like I turned to you, there's that one shot where they're hiding, right? Like right at the beginning. Uh,
Yeah.
you have Paul Atreides and his mother. They're hiding beneath this rock, and then it shows this like wide shot, and you see the rock, and you see this like thing. The sun is setting, right, and then you see this ship, right, and all these men are on this dune, and they're dropping from the ship,
Yeah.
and it just looks. It looks like it looks. First of all, it looks like the ship is there. It doesn't look like a
Yeah.
CG or a visual effect, right? And then it just looks like a piece of art or a picture
Yeah. No,
from
it's
a painting, like an oil painting. It just looks really good. So this movie just looks phenomenal, and the world building is excellent. I love the story in this movie too. It was a bit
yeah.
faster moving, and Paul's arc in this movie is just some of the best
This
some of the best character development I've seen in a blockbuster film ever. Like maybe it does a really good job of, in a blockbuster sci-fi movie, it does an excellent job of building an arc, maybe akin to Planet of the Apes, The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That trilogy did a really good job of building a character arc of the apes and their family, right? So it does a good job of that. And I love this movie. This movie is very good. I have issues with it, and we'll get into those issues. But I remember sitting there in the theater, and I just sat there. I think I maybe said this to you, maybe not, but like we're not getting another movie like this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You
Like
did tell me that.
we're not getting just a huge sci-fi
What
epic.
about Madame Web?
Like we're just not getting that this year. From
Madame
like
Web was
yeah,
we already
well,
got it.
we already got it. Yeah.
Madame Web.
Like there's no movie coming out this year that is like this. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah.
seminal. It's almost like
Well,
Oppenheimer last
and the
year,
way that
right?
I responded to this was, what about Moana 2?
Yes, and that's fair. Like maybe for you, right? You speak your own truth, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're getting like another Oppenheimer and Barbie type thing with Wicked and Moana 2.
on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wicked looks interesting. Yeah,
So,
it doesn't look bad. Like I'm interested in that. So, anyways,
yeah. Oh,
so Josh is just throwing out the blockbusters coming out this year, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Hans Zimmer's score in this movie is phenomenal. This movie is just the production of this movie is so good. The world, like when
Phenomenal.
the use of just film, not filters, but film colors, right? So when you're on the planets, the Harkonnens are from, and it's just black and white, but the skin of the Harkonnens looks like translucent. Uh,
Yeah.
the way they capture that, and then is it Fady or his? When he's like growling and his mouth is open, it's all dark, like it's like pitch black, right? And it just makes him look
Mm-hmm.
gross and menacing and
Fade.
fadey. It's a fade or fadey. I can never
Fade.
pronounce it properly. Um, and the new characters like Fade as a new villain was phenomenal. Like Austin Butler did such a good job. I've never seen him in a movie. I haven't seen Elvis,
Wow, you're
so
taking all of my points.
anyways, yeah, I love this movie,
You're just
and
rambling.
I am rambling. Let's get into some of the categories. So let's just get into the characters. Let's get into the acting, the
Yeah.
characters. And maybe we can do characters and story plot at the same time, because
Yeah.
this is a character study.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people will find this movie boring, just like the first one. And Dune is a character study. The novel, it is about the characters. It's kind of like Game of Thrones in that way, where there isn't a
Mm-hmm.
ton of action happening all the time. Uh, and Dune kind of reflects that. So, Josh, what are some of your thoughts on the characters, the actors, the story, and the plot?
Well, listen here. I was gonna say Austin Butler did an amazing job.
Hmm.
That was no, he was like, I feel like when it comes to villains, I'm like really particular, and there's not a lot of time, a lot of the times I like see a villain and I'm like, whoa, I like this guy. Um, but I really liked Fade in this movie. Like, he's an absolute maniac. He just like randomly murders people. But Austin Butler did so well at portraying him and like making him somebody who is like feared, and like you're
Mhm,
like, this guy could kill literally anyone. And it comes up later when they're fighting
mhm.
at near the end. Paul and Fade, by the way, spoiler. Um, Paul and Fade are fighting, and um, I'm like, honestly, Paul could die.
Right,
Um, I don't know the story, and I assume Paul doesn't die, but like this time, I was like, you could fool me to think that like Paul actually dies, and there's times where he does get like injured, and
right,
um, like it's an actual fight. There's stakes involved, and for having a something where you're remaking and you're like, oh well, of course Paul is gonna survive because he's in the books. I think I don't know. I haven't read the books, but um, and like just to have it where there's actual stakes is something really impressive in my opinion. Just like to pull that off and like have it feel real.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and like
that fight scene was excellent. Like, you felt
yeah,
the
it was.
tension in the room, the way it was blocked with everyone watching, and the throne room was quite small, which in the book it is quite small.
Mhm.
So just capturing the intensity there. And what I liked about that fight scene too was there was no music, if you
Oh
noticed.
yeah,
So
yeah. It was
it was just them kind of,
fighting noises,
yeah, it was really good. So
but yeah. But overall, like I can't really tell you. I couldn't tell you like one actor that I thought was like not good. Like I
right.
just found everyone really put it put effort into their roles. Well, I assume. And Florence Pugh was really good, or Florence, I don't know, but um
Her
Timothy
character.
Chalamet was good. Zendaya, of course, was good, and it's just like the acting was so good, and the characters, and just the way they interacted with each other.
Mhm.
I One of the things I really enjoyed was the main leader. I don't know what his name was. I think it's Stilgar. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
his plot line, and just like how at the end of the first movie, he's the leader of the Furman, and you're like, this guy is he means all
Well,
business, right?
he's the leader of the. Oh, we didn't. I guess we didn't know this in the first movie, but he's the leader of the
Yeah.
South, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's in charge of the South Freeman. Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Or
he has
Freeman.
like this importance to him. He has this like leadership quality, and
Mhm.
throughout this movie, I just loved watching him on screen and just him interacting with other characters, and like as he slowly starts to become less of a leader and like more of a follower. And I think that was a really cool part of this, and just
Yeah.
like his arc, and how he started kind of like being the leader of the followers in a way, and like listening to Paul and doing whatever. And yeah, no, it was really cool. Um,
Well,
just like watching
even
that.
seen how he started skeptical in the first movie, right? And then he
Mhm.
switches once Jamis is killed by Paul, right? And then
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh my goodness, I." And he even told the council, he's like, "I'm not sure if I'm ready to believe, but this, I will give my life for this kid, right? Like, I'm ready
Yeah.
to." So just to see his arc, and Javier Bardem plays him, and he's just a phenomenal actor. So um,
Mhm.
there were some funny moments with him too, like
Yeah.
when Paul wrestles the worm and is riding the worm, and then the camera just like shoots right to him, and
Yeah.
the look on his face, he's just ready to like bow and like kiss this guy's feet, like
Yeah,
he's
it's
all
crazy,
in,
yeah.
right? And you can just tell it's just on his face, like you can just tell. And Denis does a good job of, he doesn't like dialogue. Like, famously, he said that he hates dialogue in film. He says
Yeah.
dialogue is made for the theater and for television, and he says television has infected film, where there's too much dialogue in film. Film is about imagery, so he
Mhm.
does not like using a lot of dialogue.
Well,
So
there's
he
a lot
uses,
of imagery in this, so
yeah. So even that's a moment, right, where you can tell that this guy's all in. It's kind of funny, too?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh no, this guy's like he was already on the edge. Now he's a zealot.
Mhm.
Now he's like, he's
Yeah.
over that edge. So no, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing is just like uh Jessica Jessica's like character arc. Um it was kind of interesting because watching the first one, like they're very Paul and her are very like we're together, nothing will separate us.
Hmm.
Like we're all that we have. And in this movie it was kind of like I don't know if this was something that I was expecting, but she became almost some sort of like anti-hero type.
Or is
um
she a villain? That's the
I
question.
don't know, like that's the thing, and I'm just like
What do you think, Josh? Do you think she is that's what
well
this is what makes Dune such a good book, is
well that's the
this
thing.
theme right here, right? Who is the
If
villain,
she
right? Yeah,
is the villain, then I feel like this will be a really good build up for the twist villain because it
right.
was always kind of like showing you. And um but yeah, no, it's because I enjoy her. It's just she's starting to get a little um
Out there?
like you could almost feel like whenever she's on screen and the things she was doing, I was just like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like
Right.
it's it's very like gray. There's not a lot of black and white, and even with Paul, like
So do you know the background? This is okay, this is the a weak part of these movies, okay? So, because Denis Villeneuve doesn't like dialogue, there's
mhm.
a lot of stuff. Like, if you don't know the background of some of the stuff from the book, there's a lot of stuff you will miss, right?
Oh
So,
well, I don't know anything about
but
Dune.
but this is what makes the movie. It's gonna make you more interested in going back to the film, I think, in the end, right? So, like,
Mhm.
do you know anything about the Bennis Jarrett, like the Bennis Garrett, like what she's a part of? Like,
I know that they
it's
can talk to people
right, and
strongly.
like and
It's back.
use the persuasive language, right?
Yeah.
So like it is in the first movie, but it's very image focused, right? But
Mhm.
the Bennis Jarrett is literally plotting to take over the whole universe. Like they want to take over this everything. They want to take over the
Right.
emperor's seat, and they want to. And the emperor is married to the head Bennis Jarrett witch lady, and we see that in this movie where she's kind of beside
They're
him. And
married?
yes, they're supposed to be. I don't know if they are in the films, but in the books they are. But they remember when he was getting influenced by them, right? When she was convincing the emperor that the Harkonnens were lying when they weren't, right? And so like
Oh,
she was saying
yeah.
they're lying, and he's like, and he would so they're influencing all the major power structures because
Mhm.
they wanted to bring in and manufacture a savior to take over the world, and they would control that kid.
Oh.
And that was Jessica's kid, and she was supposed to have a girl. They wanted it to be a girl, but she went against the Bennis Jarrett, and because she can convince her body, like with her
Oh,
powers. This is before she drank the worm
that's
stuff
so
or
weird.
whatever. She can convince her body to have a certain gender baby. So she convinced her body to have a boy, and so she went against, like, so Paul being born and Paul being in existence was going against the Bennis Jarrett's plan.
Mm.
And so right then, Jessica was already starting to be defiant to them, and
Oh,
then she
okay.
slowly
So
becomes more
she's trying
defiant.
to have her own, and you see it at the end when Sacred Mother, is that what she's called? She says
Like
the
Jessica?
old no, the old one says, "All right, Sacred Mother," or whatever.
So that
Like
that's
she
the she's a reverend mother,
Reverend, is that
Bennis
what it is?
Bennis Jarrett. So that's like, because Jessica becomes a reverend mother in this movie, but each kind of like reverend mothers can be in different cultures and different
Mhm.
areas in this world. So she is like the reverend mother for the Bennis Jarrett. So she is like the highest
Yeah,
kind of
because
power.
like
Yeah.
and just that part where she like takes over and like you can almost see like she's trying to make it's almost like everything that has happened is kind of like something she planned for, like losing her husband,
Well, and when you rewatch the first movie, it's there,
which
but it's
I
not like
did
explained.
rewatch it
It's not
in
really explained.
in IMAX,
Right.
and it was amazing.
So, and the whole this is what the first movie makes a bit grayer. I think that they did this on purpose. Like the first movie kind of made it all the Harkonnens that were going to take over and like kill the House Atreides, but the
Mhm.
Emperor was a part of that plan, and it's in the first movie where like his guards are the ones telling, like they give, because Arrakis is the most valuable piece of land in this galaxy because they have spice, and you use spice. Like spice is like a drug in this galaxy. It's a drug, it's a
Mhm.
food. It also is how they travel in space. It's fuel to help them travel in space. So you can't travel in space without spice. It's like used for interstellar travel. So
Mhm.
this is why it's such a powerful commodity and everyone's fighting over Arrakis. And so the emperor gave Arrakis to the Harkonnens were in charge of it for generations, and that's how they became rich and fat and gluttonous, and they just eat anything that moves, kind of thing is how they are. They consume everything, and that's just what Harkonnens are. And then the
Yeah.
House Atreides is like noble, not as rich as the Harkonnens, but they are given Arrakis. But the
Mhm.
Emperor gives them Arrakis to trick them and to kill them
Yeah.
because the Bene Gesserit is scared that Jessica's son is going to take over their plan and take over the whole. So that's like the background of Dune, and then that's what is fueling. I think. I think Arrakis. I think the House Atreides getting killed and demolished in the first movie. I think that is what set Jessica off against, like she already was
Oh,
she was already kind of defiant, you know what I mean? But then they
yeah.
tried to kill her and she's like, I'm all in. I'm gonna like become
So then
powerful and I'm gonna become this like crazy reverend mother, powerful lady that's gonna kill these people and take
mhm.
over what's mine, right? And I think that event is what set her off. But you don't this is what Dune does such a good job at. You don't really know that. Like Dune 2 or Dune 1, you don't really know she's going to do that, and Dune 2 is her arc into doing that, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of go along the journey with her.
Mhm.
And like you said, it's uncomfortable, it's kind of weird. Like she risks her baby's life in her womb and her life by drinking
Yeah.
that crazy potion stuff, like the
Worm
worm
juice.
guts, the worm juice, right? Um, like she's kind of just on the suicide mission to become really powerful, you know,
Yeah.
and she does, yeah.
I guess that's why it becomes more gray because it's like, oh, well, she's clearly defying the what is known as evil in this world, but
Right.
at the same time, with great power comes great
Yes.
responsibility. That's what
And
Uncle Ben told
yes.
me.
And are the Bene Gesserits, are they the ones that are evil because they're predestining all this stuff, right? They're planning all this stuff, they're foretelling all this stuff. And so Dune is about predestination, right? And it's about
Mhm.
the religious side of predestination. Like Frank Herbert is making a comment on, well, if God is real and he's predestining us, why is that loving? Like, is that loving or is that evil? That's kind of the
Mhm.
question that Dune asks, right? And so are the Bene Gesserits the ones that are evil? Or is Jessica the one that's the hero because she's fighting the predestined, but then she's predestining her son for her plan, right? And Paul has no choice, right? And
Yeah.
at the end, you see that. You see where Paul has no, like, he just succumbs to the plan, right? Like, he wants to
Yeah.
be with Chani
But it
and,
almost feels like he
but
has an alternate plan too.
yes, I think so. I haven't
Yeah.
read anything past Dune 1, the first book, so I have no idea, right? Because
Oh.
then if they do a third movie, it'll be Dune Messiah. So, anyways, that's like the Jessica stuff. That's like
Well,
which is one
that
of the
was a
which is one
little
of the
off.
which is one of the best arcs in the film, right? Like Josh, you were saying that.
Yeah.
And she kind of makes you uncomfortable. And what did you think about is there any other characters that stood out to you? What did you think of Christopher Walken and that casting choice?
I don't know, it was alright. I didn't mind. Like, he played a good old dude.
Okay, yeah.
He didn't talk a lot, so
No, which is probably a good thing. Yeah,
yeah.
because
I
it's
really
Christopher
enjoyed Zendaya. Like, she's
Okay.
a really good actress, and yeah, I don't. It's Zendaya. What
How
else is
did
there to say?
did you like the arc with her, with Paul choosing power and the Emperor's daughter, and what'd you think of all that?
Well, no, because I feel like she didn't deserve that.
Right. Yeah.
So, no, I didn't like that.
So here's a big thing in the book. She actually goes along with Paul's plan. Like she doesn't get
Well,
mad in the book. In the book, she actually tells Paul, "You need to marry the Emperor's daughter to be power." Like she's a part of the plan. So
mm,
that's a big thing they changed in the movie. I like the change. I think the change makes it
yeah,
more
it makes
tragic
it more
and it
Hollywood.
well, I don't know about that. I think Hollywood she would be going along with the plan, like
Oh,
I think.
well, I don't know. I
Maybe I'm
just thought like
wrong,
the add the drama
but I like
is
the
what I'm
drama.
trying to
I don't
say.
know.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like it's
Yeah,
kind of like
okay.
adds it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I really like Zendaya. I was really disappointed after watching the first one all the way back in 2021. I was really disappointed with how little Zendaya was in the first one. And so it was just really nice to have
Right.
that in this one because she's a good actor and
Mhm.
she did really well and oh, just a fun character. She like taught Paul stuff and uh,
And fell in love with Paul.
that's true. That did happen.
I like,
Forgot about that.
I like that she's in the first one, like, I like the build up to her is what I like, right?
Yeah, and I think
Paul
that's why
yeah.
she was so much better in this one because it's like we didn't get a lot of her. We were just kind of like
No.
teased.
Yeah,
And
there's just
so,
Paul kinda sees images of her, right? And
yeah,
that's pretty much it. Yeah. Um,
but yeah,
so
no, it was great.
there's some acting choices I didn't love, like Christopher Walken I didn't love because he's just Christopher Walken, like, he's just you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
So
for some reason, I was not thinking about Christopher Walken during
right.
the like I didn't even realize that was Christopher Walken for some reason. Like I don't even know what I was thinking. I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's
just some
funny.
old dude."
And his hair was, like, extra crazy, like, it was a little bit long,
Yeah,
and it was funny, I love him, like, he's so funny because he's
yeah.
kind of a meme now, but
I'm surprised he didn't say I'm walking here.
yeah. Once I got over the fact that it was Christopher Walken, I was like, "Okay, you know what? This is fine, I guess." Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think he's the only acting choice I didn't like in this movie. Like Florence Pugh, it's I like how she looks a lot different than
I liked
Zendaya
her
too.
more in this one than I in this movie than I did in Oppenheimer.
Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
That's funny because she doesn't really do a lot in this movie. Not yet,
Well,
anyways.
I don't know. I just think
I know she becomes a bigger part of the story later, but
I don't know. I still just liked her more and I mean, she died in Oppenheimer, so
right.
I like Florence Pugh. She's a good actor and
She's good in both movies. She's also
yeah.
good in Midsummer, which is a terrifying movie
Oh, yeah.
and will disturb you.
That's
But
a one-time watch movie.
she is just very much she kind of gives exposition at the beginning, recaps
Well,
the
she
first
kind of feels
movie, and
like
then
the Zendaya of last movie,
right, yeah.
where it's like, "Oh, we might get more of her in the next one."
Yeah, she wasn't bad by any means. She was just kind of her character. She's just not a big character yet, right? Because she's
Yeah.
introduced, and now she'll be a part of Paul's ascension to power, which is fine. So yeah, yeah. I there wasn't any acting that I thought was bad. What did you think of Dave Bautista's character? Just to look it up. Beast Robin. What did you think of
He
his arc in this? Was it surprising that he's kind of a meathead and
I thought it was really funny that Justin said, "Wow, Drax is really angry."
yeah, when he's like
Yeah.
smashing that guy on the console or whatever.
It's
Yeah.
funny because he could almost be like the prequel to Drax because he's like a blank canvas.
Awesome.
Drax could have been like turned green
Yeah,
after his failure in Dune, he like learned to be a lot more like calm and dumb.
that's really funny.
Yeah.
That's a great take. I love that.
Yeah.
Good take.
So Drax and whatever his name is are the
Yeah.
same person.
And did you like Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah, I think Timothy Chalamet is just a good. I sound like a broken record at this point, but I think he's a good actor. He did really well. Um, like he's yeah, I don't know. I don't I don't
This
have much to say. It's just they all did well. I thought that back to Dave Baptiste or whatever. I felt like he wasn't in it a lot. Like he kind of like it just showed scenes of him being angry and like killing people, and then he just dies.
well, he's just
I'm like, oh
incompetent too, right? Like he's just
yeah,
not good at his
and I'm
job.
just like, in the last one he was a lot bigger of a role,
Right,
and like in this one he was just there to be discarded
right.
and replaced. So I don't. I honestly like all of the they're the
The
Harkins. Okay.
Harkonnens.
Um, they just felt kind of like useless in a way because in the end they were also disposable, just like the Atreides. Like the big worm guy, floating worm guy. I don't know. The floating guy.
Like the main
He
the
just dies, and it's like not a big. It's kind of like when
like
Snoke died.
Baron Harkonnen, like the main bad guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
like when Snoke died. It's like all this build up, and then zero like resolution is just
Okay.
sliced dead.
Okay.
You know?
Well, in the book, you don't even see the war. Like the war is kind of there's no action in the book at all.
Really?
Like, you don't really even see any of that stuff.
Well, you
So,
can't really see anything but words, Jordan.
well, of course, but yeah, well, you have to understand like the Baron's quite weak as well. Like he's just a human
Well, yeah, I get that, but
kept alive by
he's
machines.
literally a floating man.
Yes, because he's eaten too much. He's too fat.
So I don't
Yeah,
know. And he bathes in oil.
that keeps him alive, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you thought like they were kind of throwaway in this movie
Yeah,
because that.
they were just like they're kind of like stormtroopers.
Well, I've seen some people criticize how when they rose the main war at the end, like it was too easy of a fight
Yeah.
for uh but you have to understand too that I kind of like that it was too easy of a fight
Well,
because
yeah.
this was all most of the Freeman warriors, right? And it's the North and the South together
It
fighting.
was also like on their turf. They understand the
Yeah,
land. Like I
yeah,
expected it to go this way. Like them I loved every scene where they popped out of the ground.
yeah. Those
Like that
little
was
bunny
just
things.
it
Those
was
sort of
so
like,
fun. Just like
yeah,
raw, dead. And I'm like, that's just it was just so amusing. I don't know. It's um no, I just love the Furman in this movie. Like they did so well at portraying them and just
yeah.
their community and culture. Like I just felt like I was part of them, you know? I felt like I was one of them.
Well, that's they did a good job. Like the Denis does a good job of showing, okay, when someone dies, they suck all the water out, right? And then because they're all about recycling the water and being super efficient in the desert,
Yeah.
right? And then when you see the big pool of water, the sacred, like
Yeah.
it's just still, right? It's in this like sacred looking place, and right away, like you were like, are those dead people to
Yeah,
me?
no, that's
But
I was
it's like this moment where you just know, okay, like these are the dead warriors. Look how
yeah.
much water there is. Like so many people have
Yeah.
died, right? And
But
it's
it just
such a
shows
good,
like
yeah,
it shows that they're like they aren't just they have history,
yeah,
they're well
mhm.
seasoned, their culture is well seasoned. Um and this is where my favorite scene came where it's like don't waste that and he like takes the tear and like eats
Yeah,
it or like drinks it and
yeah.
I'm
You
like
love
that
that
is
scene.
so funny. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah,
Like
no, then
don't waste your
that's
tears.
I like that they showed the detailed stuff like that because
Yeah.
the water suits. There's like two
And
chapters devoted to the water
yeah.
suits in the book.
And later
So yeah,
on, like after seeing that scene, another spoiler here. Later on, when you see that their like village underground cave thing, it gets destroyed,
Yeah.
and like rocks fall into that, and I'm like,
Water.
no,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, no,
But that's just
you
like
can't do this.
this is a good transition into the filmmaking part of it, and then we'll end. But
Mm-hmm.
the again, Denis just using that imagery, the buildup of that pool, and just telling that little story, right? Of you feel it's like a gut wrench because you know,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, like that's what they're destroying. It made the Harkonnens more evil in my mind, right? And it was
Yeah.
Fade doing it, like this crazy, evil, psychotic Harkonnen that was just like destroy them all, and he's just like sending
Kill them all.
missiles, and he was
Yeah.
such a good villain, like I good
Always.
because the Harkonnens they were desperate. They weren't desperate enough in this movie. Like in the book, they're more desperate. They're so desperate that they turn to this guy because he's
Mm-hmm.
like relegated to different things on their home planet. And so I thought they did it. They could have done a better job of like mentioning that he was that they're desperate enough to turn to him, but
Yeah.
but you still got the fact that okay, they're giving this guy the keys that can do whatever he wants, and he's crazy, right? So
Yeah.
pairing that with the rocks falling in the sacred pool was really strong, in my opinion. It was
Yeah.
really good. So yeah, so let's talk about the filmmaking. Let's just like anything filmmaking, Josh. So what did you like about the filmmaking? What didn't you like? There are things I didn't like that I'm ready to throw out there. Like for instance, I thought there's too many time jumps, right?
Mm.
A bit too many
Yeah.
that were
That was
unclear.
that's
Yeah.
that's one of my critiques on this is and I know it would make the movie so much longer because it's already almost 3 hours. But you
Yeah.
were ready for a 4 hour movie.
Yeah. Like I
um
keep it all in. Like I'm ready. I'm there.
Although if it
Yeah.
were 4, I would want to go earlier so we weren't because we were already leaving almost at
Just
1
give me
a.m.
give me the Denis Villeneuve cut. Give me the
Yeah.
Villeneuve cut
But
as opposed to get a Snyder cut.
um just like just Paul integrating into the Furman and like learning their ways. I felt like they cut a lot of that, like the part where he was
Yeah.
um crossing the desert and like they just kind of jumped to him riding a worm. Which by the way, that scene I saw beforehand at the end of the Dune first Dune movie in IMAX.
Right.
And it got me so excited for the movie. And I don't watch trailers, but watching that, I was like,
The movie clip.
this is gonna be
And that's
good.
a great scene. But so
Yeah.
for instance, the crossing part, they don't cut to the worm. They cut to them under the sand, like destroying a mining
Yeah.
vehicle. And I when I watched that, I was like, because they did such build up with the crossing, right? Like
It
they talked
almost
about
felt
the
like they
demons and the desert, and like I was so excited for him to kind
yeah.
of suffer in the crossing. Then he meets Zendaya,
Wanted to
Chani
watch him
there.
suffer.
Then he meets Chani there, and then it cuts,
Yeah.
and they're just destroying this vehicle. And then, like, I
Yeah,
was
no,
like, "Oh, they're gonna show
it felt
other Freeman
weird.
doing this." But then Paul was there doing I was like, "Oh, I guess he's already." So that was probably the worst cut in the movie.
Yeah, it almost felt like there was more. But
Like, there's a whole part that should have been there. That's what it felt like. Yeah.
yeah. But
Um,
yeah, no, it's kind of weird and like all we got was her like teaching Johnny or however you say it. I'm so bad at
like Chani
uh,
teaching Paul.
Johnny teaching Paul the sandwalk and like doing it correctly. Um and then like nothing else. I was like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
could be a really good place cuz if they had that scene, one, it could show him like going through adversity
Yeah.
and like learning their ways, and two, it could have like completely allowed for Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet's characters to grow and like
Yeah.
build chemistry and like so we can see them naturally because even with that it almost felt rushed with it's like oh yeah like we got a bit in the first movie they were kind of like close and then she's like in love with him and they're in love and it's like oh where did that middle part go and so
Yeah.
but like I feel like um yeah, no, it's just I wish I still had that, but whatever. We
For me,
still
the
got a little
romance was just barely enough. It was
yeah,
like a 50%. Like it
yeah,
just passed, right? But then the adversity stuff and the learning stuff, because they built so much of that up, and it
Mhm.
just was not there. And I just that's
And
the weakest part of
yeah,
the film. Yeah.
and honestly, that's the part that I going into this movie, that's what I thought was gonna, especially watching the scene beforehand, that's what I thought a lot of this movie was gonna be, was him
Yeah.
learning their ways and that yada yada. But it almost felt like they were rushed, and they probably were rushed, and um felt like they're like, oh, this is too long, no one's gonna watch this. But it almost kind of made it worse in that,
If
and not
it
like
felt like a
much
bit,
worse.
I think I said this to you at the very, like, when we're walking out of the movie, like, that's a part that felt like the studio said this can't be in the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure, but it feels like the studio,
Classic
okay,
Warner
this is, you're
Bros.
too close to 3 hours, but like,
Yeah.
but you did get, what's funny, just hearing you describe that, you actually got more of the learning the ways of the people through Jessica than Paul.
Yeah.
Like, you got a lot of that stuff through Jessica, so maybe they thought that they want to do it
Well,
more than twice,
which I
right?
thought
But
I thought
yeah,
they were both gonna have their separate parts where they like,
right.
especially Jessica. I think it's important that they left it in her parts because I
Yes.
feel like
Yeah.
going in, it seemed like she was more reluctant, and like Paul was ready to do it, but like Jessica was still like, oh, we need to be safe and we need to
Right.
follow this. Like she had um her ideas and what she planned already, and so Paul was already like kind of learning more about the Fremen, and um so yeah, it was good that we saw that about Jessica. It's just I feel like we needed the other half because
Hmm.
going in, Paul and Jessica were the main people. Like they were the last living people of the people we followed throughout the first. And so yeah,
What are
I don't
some
know.
things about the filmmaking you want to point out, Josh? That was mine, my nitpick.
Um well, the cinematography was amazing.
Hmm.
Like absolutely gorgeous. Um I would watch this movie again just to like stare at the sand. And
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
that opening scene where it like showed a top down and it was just the rock surrounded by like orange sand.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
was like, this looks like a Microsoft
Wallpaper.
wallpaper. And I'm like, I want to make it my wallpaper because it looks so good. And I was just like the harsh contrast between like the dark rock and the sand.
Yeah.
It just looks so good. And it
Well,
made
you could
my like
feel the heat too. Like, you
photography
just, yeah.
mind
Yeah. It's so good.
like go crazy. And so I remember looking over at you and like, what? Like, why does this rock shot so cool? No, I think
The movie,
that open scene was
yeah.
amazing.
Well, the CG too. Like, so what they did with this movie is they didn't do any like digital processing. What they did was they filmed it digitally, like on laser IMAX or whatever they call
Mhm.
it. So it's on digital. And then what they did was they took the digital and they recorded that onto film after they're done filming. So they recorded it onto 70 millimeter film and 35 millimeter, I believe, both.
Mhm.
And then, so what you're seeing is you're seeing a digital shot picture re-recorded onto film. And so it
Wow.
makes, because what they found was they found that it looked too sharp at times, because then you could
Yeah.
see, it didn't look real enough, or because they wanted it to feel like you're watching something ancient, like an ancient piece of film, or something otherworldly. They wanted it to feel kind of
Yeah.
gritty and dirty like film. But then when they put the film emulation on it, it looked too dated. It looked like it was filmed in the 80s or 90s. So they did it this way because they found it was the best of both worlds, where you
Yeah.
still have the clarity, but you have everything looks soft. Like, there's softness around a
Yeah.
lot of the effects and the images, like around the rocks even. So it kind of has that film kind of soft look, and then it makes all the
Yeah.
effects blend together a lot better. And so, yeah, like something like that is just makes the film look amazing. And the coloring's amazing. Everything, like even the Harkonnens world with that black and white was really good. It was kind of hard to look at. Like, you're just like, and Harkonnens are
Yeah.
supposed to be ugly and it's supposed to be hard to look at, right? So it really thematically worked
There
well.
was times where it's like it'd be darker and they'd show a scene of the Harkonnens. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
you're like blinding me.
Or it goes
It
like
was
back to the other stuff and you're like, whoa, yeah.
like, whoa, hold up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I and like it didn't help that it was like late, so I felt
Yeah.
like I was tired a little, and so it was just like, oh, I'm awake, I swear.
That's
And
funny.
so
Did
yeah.
you find that all the red like so the I found all the arcs quite strong in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica's arc was really strong. Paul's, even without those scenes, which I think could have made it better, I still think his arc was quite strong, especially at the end
Yeah.
when
Oh
he
yeah.
turns and finally gives into the plan. Like that scene is kind of like
Worm juice
Timothy Chalamet. I kind of have new respect for.
with Wonka
Just
Artrades.
I just he was kind of chilling. I don't know, like when he
Yeah.
finally gives in at that last scene when after he's beaten Fade and he's turned to the dark side. Like that's what this movie is.
He's
He's
literally
turned.
Anakin.
Like he's turned.
This is the
This is what a good
rise of
Anakin
the
arc looks like. By the way, this is how
yeah.
you do it. Yeah.
Well,
So
no, it was great. It was great.
all
Anakin's arc
the
was
even the
amazing.
buildup of the because this movie has a lot of religious undertones, right?
Mm-hmm.
It questions if a
A
Messiah
lot.
figure is good or not, and creates fundamentalism or not. Like and seeing that scene where all the Freemen finally are worshiping Paul, and he's
Yeah.
calling out the future of certain people in the crowd. Like
Yeah.
that
Well,
scene was chilling.
he
That
was
scene
telling them things that has happened
that
to them.
happened. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Like things that he couldn't have known about certain
Mm-hmm.
people, and like that scene gave me chills as well. Like it was really
Yeah.
well done. So did those
It's so good.
moments
He's
hit
like,
for
who's gonna
you?
fight me?
Yeah, yeah. And then they're all
I
like, oh, yeah, it was so good.
it was all yeah, no, they hit for me and like him like being like that. I was like, no, Paul. I because like we
No,
followed
Paul.
him and we saw him like being with them and not wanting to be like we throughout the whole thing, he expressed not wanting to go to the south, not wanting to do this and that. And so then to see him like kind of go back on what he
Right.
believed, it kind of like I felt it because I'm like, no, this is not what you wanted. This is something you've been avoiding. It's like it almost felt like he didn't really want to, but he was doing it anyways, just for whatever reason. And
You know what I love about that, Josh, though? Because it goes back to his scene with his dad before they leave Atreides, or before they leave their planet in the first movie, and they talk
mhm,
about honor, and Paul's even like, because they talk about the trap being set. Like Paul's like, "Are you worried that it's a trap?" Right, to his
mhm,
dad, and his dad says, "We're noble enough that people will come to our aid, and we will win in the end." Right, and
mhm,
this is what makes this movie so good, I think, in the story is that Paul, as he's turning, if you recall, during that religious fanatic scene when all the people are starting to worship him and stuff like that. I shouldn't say fanatic, religious scene. He has his dad's ring, remember?
mhm,
And he's it's implied that he's doing this for his dad to avenge for his dad and to bring honor back to his dad's
mhm.
house. I personally think that's gonna be the next kind of tension is he listening to his mom and doing it for his mom, or is he doing it actually for his dad?
Yeah,
Because
and
remember,
like
Josh, yeah,
it doesn't feel like this is something that his dad would have wanted to, and so
but is there anything else he can do though? That's
yeah,
the
that's
thing,
true.
right? This might be his only way to be able to bring that, like to bring honor back to his dad. Otherwise, he'd be
Yeah.
dead or lost somewhere or whatever,
I mean,
right?
yeah, right
So
now,
yeah,
like he's the only one that can carry on that Atreides name. Like
right, yeah.
he's the only male. That's it. Like
Did
he's
you
the
have
only Atreides.
any thoughts on the sister relationship? Right? Did
Uh,
you?
it was kind of weird. Like I actually
Okay.
didn't overly enjoy the scenes showing the fetus. Like I didn't think it looked good.
Oh, I thought that was awesome.
Like I didn't think it
Right.
looked
What?
good.
That's actually some of my favorite part of the movie.
Like I thought it just didn't look like it looked more low budget, I guess.
I love the way it looked.
It just,
I like that it looked low budget. Like it looked like
it didn't
2001.
fit with the rest of the movie though.
It
That's the
looked like
thing. Like,
2001: A Space Odyssey. It looked
but
amazing.
that's the
Yeah.
but like it's different because in that movie it works because that's not newer looking like crazy cinematography that we are seeing in Dune.
Okay.
So to see that, it's like a harsh contrast between the two styles, I felt, because it feels older, but the rest of it doesn't, if that makes sense. So like it doesn't look awful, but it just didn't
Ooh, I think
feel
we have to
like it fit in the
disagree.
movie. Good.
Good.
And another thing that I would argue is I feel like Zendaya's or uh Chani's arc is probably the weakest because I feel like
Okay.
I just like she's like a little reluctant and then she's just in love with Paul.
Right.
And like there's not a lot of like room. I feel like they didn't put a lot of effort into her arc for some reason, or maybe that's in the book. And
Into that romance.
well, not into the romance, but into her like as a character. And so,
Like her
you know,
switching back and forth or not, like the decision to believe in Paul or not, like that whole part of it. Is that
yeah,
what
and
you're
just
talking about?
like I don't know. Maybe it's because we just met her and
Yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like there wasn't a lot of she was pretty one note the whole time,
I
to be
think what
honest.
was there was good. I think there is some good dualistic. Maybe on rewatch you might notice it because there is
Yeah.
some moments where she's kind of she has her friends, right, and
Hmm.
her friends kind of snap her
But
back
yeah,
into what they believe in, right?
and when I say weakest, I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's bad. Like
no,
it's
yeah,
not.
no, I'm
It's
not
just
saying you're saying that, but
it's
yeah,
the weakest of the others because other ones are great, and I just feel like she is that more. She's kind of like against the whole religion thing, and
because
she's like,
her tribe's from the north, right?
she's
So
like,
they're
yeah, and
yeah,
she's like, oh, they're like younger, they're a different generation, and so
right.
it's kind of like, oh, we don't follow what our parents believe, and it's like, yeah, I get this. And then out of nowhere, she's just like, I love you, Paul. Be mine. I'm like, what happened to the other?
Well, I
Like,
have to
what just
see it again.
happened?
I do think there could have been more there. I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing. I just think that I did buy it in the movie. Maybe that's because I know it. I don't know. Maybe I have to see it again and see if it isn't as fleshed out as it should be.
Hmm.
Um, I just, I'm going to be honest. Zendaya grew on me throughout the film. I didn't like her at first. I thought her acting got better as the film went on. And I think that it might not be her acting. It might be what you're saying. It might be
Hmm.
her character becoming more complex throughout the film.
Yeah.
And I do like that she starts to I think the turning's probably the weakest part of that because I like it when she is in love with Paul and then she slowly starts to realize the plan.
Yeah.
Like she slowly starts to realize, oh my goodness, this is where this is going. And you can start to see her turn back, right? And I
Yeah.
really thought that part of it was quite strong, where you kind of feel the tragedy coming on, right? You feel, oh no, like she's not for this. Like that moment where
Oh,
everyone's
yeah.
bowing to Paul and she's standing, and all
Hmm.
Paul can see is her standing, and like that was a really good moment. But I do believe, yeah, I think what you're saying is correct. Like there needs to be a bit more there.
But again, like, I feel like
Because
a
it was
lot of that would
strong.
have been,
What was there was strong. Maybe that's
yeah,
why there should have been more there too, right? Yeah,
I agree. And like, it was good. I just think of what the other characters were more noticeable or just
right.
like stood out. And yeah, maybe like I do need to rewatch this movie and I plan to go to it in IMAX, but I feel like even again, this movie would have been so much better if they had that one scene. I feel like if they had that scene, they could have stretched it out more,
Yeah.
made that more natural instead of just like I felt like that quick switch,
Yep.
especially within
It
like
was quick. Yep.
the whole being against all this old age
Yep.
cultural stuff and
Well,
then just kind of being in love and
well, she's making fun of Stilgar too, right? Like she totally
yeah,
makes fun of him at that one scene. That was a great scene, by the way.
yeah,
Uh,
I also I agree that one
the
was great.
the two religious sides, just like
Yeah.
the north and the south fighting, right? Like That was a really good scene. Really strong.
Yeah.
I, I hard disagree on the fetus stuff. That stuff was phenomenal. I love that we saw the fetus and we saw the baby in the womb. It was incredible. And then when she drank the poison stuff, seeing how it affected the baby too, like, was really good. So,
I have to say, I am really curious of what it will be like when she is born, if we ever see that.
you know what's crazy? In the book, she's already born.
What?
So that's a huge change in the movie. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I like the change. Like, I like that she's talking to her sister or to the daughter. It shows what I liked about it in the film is that it's a good way of showing how her power is escalating as the Reverend Mother, right? She
Yeah.
now can talk to her fetus and, like, talk, converse with her. What did you think of the scene where you saw his sister in the future? What did you think of that? And there was water on Arrakis.
I mean, it just kind of made me like intrigued onto where it's going,
Right.
you know. I don't know, just like to see the water and like in this whole movie, water is a big um theme and like
Yeah.
symbol.
Mhm.
So just like even him talking to Zendaya, I'm just gonna call her Zendaya. And just like talking, it's like, and she's like, "Is it true that water falls from the skies?" I was like,
That was a
"Yes." And
good
there's
scene.
and there's
Yeah.
oceans, and so like even just
Mhm.
like because I was
So
thinking
good.
about that when I saw the ocean and just like that callback. Like I feel like there's a lot of good callbacks, not only to the first movie but to different parts within this movie. And
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like good close attention to the details, and I think it's what makes this movie really good. And it's something where they highlight them in a way that you can remember them because within
Mhm.
a almost 3 hour movie, it's really easy to forget some scenes, but somehow they like highlight them in a way not too obvious, but that when they do call back to it, it's like it's a callback. And maybe I missed some, but I
It's
felt
just
like
good writing, that's what it is.
yeah.
It's really good
And so
writing. Yeah.
it's really well written, this movie. And um yeah, no, that scene was good. It was cool to see. I don't know how the
That was a great
sister
scene. That was
I don't know how the sister is integral to the plot. So
right.
right now it's just kind of like confusing because like in this movie, she like you could have not had her and it would have been the same, I guess. Like there would be less shock factor when she's
Right.
dying because I was like the whole time I was thinking about the baby because I'm like, oh, what's happening to the baby? Or like when she gets or when she
That's a
like
good moment.
falls
Yeah.
over and she's like getting beat up, I'm like, oh, the baby.
Yeah.
It's like adding like kind of intensity to Jessica's character where it's like, oh, you have to keep her safe, she's pregnant. Um, but yeah, I don't understand the baby, so it's something that is left open for, I guess, interpretation or hype for the next movie.
I'm just gonna make sure I got that right. I'm pretty sure. And of course it was Anya Taylor-Joy. I kinda rolled my eyes when I saw
Yeah,
that.
because what was the trailer we saw beforehand with her in it?
Um, Furiosa.
Oh yeah, Mad Max, which
Anyways,
it feels similar to this movie. I'm not gonna lie, Mad Max World.
okay, well, it's deserts and dry
Yeah.
and yeah. Um, yeah, I because that shot points to, I guess, in Messiah or maybe the book after the 6 books. I thought there was only three, but there's 6 books. But I think it's a Messiah where, because remember they keep talking about paradise, right?
Yeah,
Leading us into
it'll
paradise.
he'll
So
make it greener and
one day I think Arrakis does become paradise and resourceful with water again. And yeah, um, I think, but that's what that points to because she's on Arrakis and there's the water and the oceans there again.
mhm.
And but I like that she the poison stuff kind of makes makes Rebecca's the actress's name, makes Jessica more powerful. And I wonder what that's going to lean into with the daughter, right? Is it make her different, more powerful? What does that make her? And I think she will be in the third movie. I don't know at what amount, but I think she's a part of that Messiah story. So
maybe they'll always have a female character that like they'll add more into the next one. So in the third one, you'll see a little bit of her,
as
and
it
then it's
was
like you're gonna have to
Zendaya,
watch
and
the
then it was
next
her.
one.
Yeah.
But it's like it was Zendaya, then it was Florence
Florence
Pugh, and then
Pugh. Yeah, that's so funny.
it's whatever her name is, and then it's just like, oh, watch it for this female actor.
I do love this story has really strong female characters as well. They're all quite well done. I think Zendaya could have been a bit better. I agree with you there, but I love Jessica's arc, and the
I don't.
Dennis Jarrett's are really captured really well.
To be fair, I feel like Zendaya's character and the purpose of her isn't to be a strong. Like she's supposed to be independent.
Yep.
But I feel like she's not supposed to be a strong, independent leader type in
No,
this movie.
what I mean by strong is fleshed out and like nuance, and there's depth to the characters here, and just well fleshed out is what I mean. Yeah. This movie. Yeah. So what I think is interesting too is just remember the Bene Gesserit, right? Remember they wanted a daughter first. I think that comes into play. I don't know. Like I haven't read beyond the first book, but maybe she's got more powerful capabilities than Paul will. Maybe it'll be Paul versus his sister. Maybe
they won't know their siblings, and
instead of Return of the Jedi,
and then they'll find out, oh my goodness, we're related.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. And the audience knows the whole time. It's like this disgusting.
Yeah, and like, don't do that.
So Josh,
I really hope that does not happen.
That is our Dune 2 review. What would you give it out of 10 doors?
I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd, but
I haven't done my Letterboxd yet, so yeah.
I only did that because I think it's my favorite movie I've seen this year. And my scoring on there isn't the best, but I'll give it like 9.
Okay. Josh, can you send me your Letterboxd username so I can put it on the description, by the way?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't like you follow me, so you could just.
Do I follow you? I'll just click on there. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure. Out of 5 stars, I would give this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. So
it'd be 9.
There's a few things there that are a bit weak that I mentioned. Not very many.
I would have to say this movie is very close to being a 10.
I would agree. It's when it comes to me being a film lover, it's a 5 out of 5. I think as a film, there's issues. I do think there's expository issues. There's issues with the lack of exposition in these two movies where you don't quite know everything that's going on all the time. And so I think there could be more of that, maybe a bit more dialogue. I don't want exposition dumps. I don't want lazy writing, but I think this world could be fleshed out a bit more. And a lot of the weird stuff from the book isn't in the movie. I kind of want more of that stuff of this world in this. This world is just kind of crazy. It's a crazy world. And I do wish some of that stuff was in there.
It almost feels like, so the last movie was definitely building up for this one. And it feels like these two movies are building up for the next one. And it's just like, it's like slowly building the world out for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's doing a good job. Like it's great, fantastic world building on film. Like it's when I told Josh that idea of we're not going to get a movie like this year. Like the last time I felt like this in the theater, I watched Lord of the Rings.
Star Wars.
Right. Or Star Wars. Like but Lord of the Rings, like this definitely feels like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Just fleshing everything out slowly. Right. So I think there could be a bit more of that stuff in there. So what I think these movies could be 3.5 hours. That they would never release a film that long. But yeah.
The DVD release.
A lot of that stuff would be fixed for me, but I would give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. It's not a 5 out of 5. Like it's not like Oppenheimer is a better film wise.
Yeah.
There's less
I like
time
this movie
jumps.
more than
There's less.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and that could be the case. It's more. I don't. I won't make a decision between the two because there's two totally different movies. But as a sci-fi lover and sci-fi fan, this is amazing. And
Yeah.
if you love sci-fi, I highly recommend it. This movie's hard to recommend to people. I don't know. A lot of people aren't going to like this movie. It's very slow. It's very maybe Dune 2 is a bit more palatable. Would you
Yeah.
think, Josh? Yeah.
I would definitely say so. Like,
Yeah.
I might bring my youth boys to this one.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, that's another thing. This movie is pretty clean. Like
Yeah.
there's not
Even the
no
one like
nudity. Yeah.
even the one like sex scene is like it's all like neck up,
Yeah, and you just see
like
him
shoulders
really. You
up,
don't really even see her.
and
Yeah.
it's like afterwards, and
Yeah.
they're just kind of like it's kind of more like they're just talking while she's like laying on him.
Yeah.
Like nothing else happens.
No swearing. Like there's violence, but it's not gratuitous at all. Like it's pretty yeah,
It might be scary.
it's kind of nice these days to go to big movies that are pretty clean. Like
It's kind of
Godzilla
it's kind of
-1
funny
was clean
because
and Wonka was
the
clean.
the only movies I've seen in theaters this year so far have both had Timothy Chalamet in them.
Well, this is the first movie you've seen this year, right?
No,
What was the other movie with him in it?
didn't Wonka come out this year?
No.
We
That
didn't
was
watch that this
that was
year.
December.
Never mind then.
There's like nothing coming to theaters that it looks
Have I?
good
I guess
anyways.
I
Like,
haven't seen anything in.
there you
Actually,
go.
no. I watched Dune and Dune 2.
You
So
watched the
yeah,
first Dune. Yeah, there
it's
you go.
still high. It still counts. The last three
There you
movies
go.
I've seen in theaters, Timothy Chalamet.
So that is our review of Dune. Josh, you will pick the next movie we review because it's your turn to pick. You don't have to pick right now, but we'll bring up a new review soon. And we just talked about Dune for an hour, almost an hour and a half. That's crazy. So
We should have tried to make it as long as Dune.
I mean, we can keep going.
No.
I got more we can talk about. We can talk about
We'll
Denis
we'll
Villeneuve. We can
release
talk
the
about
director's cut
yeah.
later on.
But that is our podcast that is our episode for this time and this week. And thank you for listening, for watching the video. I had some troubles with our last video, so that's already up as of this one releasing because this one is releasing later this week. We're recording this on Sunday. And I might see how the video views do. We might do it separately. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see because it's always nice to repost stuff, right? So, or like post a few days later. But anyways, to interact with our show, you can email us at cinematicdoors@gmail.com. I do check it. You can go to our Instagram at cinematic_doors. You can go to TikToks at cinematicdoors. And you can go to Letterboxd, download Letterboxd. Don't go to Twitter or X. But go to Letterboxd and you can find our usernames. Mine is Jordan C07, but it's in the description of this video and podcast episode. Click on those and you can go to Letterboxd and follow our lists and follow the movies that we watch. Every time I watch a movie this year, I will post a review of that movie on there, which is kind of fun. So
will you write reviews?
I do write reviews, shorter ones, obviously, but
I sometimes do.
So you can actually follow along with us and see what we're watching, and it's kind of fun. So, Josh, how do you spell doors? By the way?
Wait.
Oh, okay.
Oh, DORES.
Yeah.
But now that you've said all the boring stuff and everyone has left, if you've made it this far into the pod, message us on whatever saying, "Drink those tears."
You love that part, eh, Josh?
Yeah, that was my highlight of the film.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Josh?
Don't forget to close the door on the way out.